Exodus 35, verses 10 through 19 in the Christian Standard Bible. Let all the skilled artisans among you come and make everything that the Lord has commanded. The tabernacle, its tents and covering, its clasps and supports, its crossbars, its pillars and bases, the ark with its poles, the mercy seat, and the curtain for the screen, the table with its poles, and all its utensils, and the bread of the presence, the lampstand for light with its utensils and lamps, as well as the oil for the light, the altar of incense with its poles, the anointing oil and the fragrant incense, the entryway screen for the entrance to the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering with its bronze gates, its poles and all its utensils, the basin with its stand, the hangings in the courtyard, its posts and bases, and the screens of the gate of the courtyard, the tent pegs for the tabernacle and the tent pegs for the courtyard, along with their ropes, and the specially woven garments for ministering in the sanctuary, the holy garments for the priest Aaron, and the garments for his sons to serve as priests. Here Moses is having the children of Israel prepare the tabernacle in the way that God commanded. We see everyone working together for like arts and crafts and stuff. We're doing tailoring robes and decorating the worship area. Even though we're no longer under the law of Moses as Christians, we still believe that aesthetics can play an important role of worship. Keno Cannady, Rev Keno. Why do you believe God had the people of Israel put so much into the decor of their worship area? And what can the church today learn from that?
Well, remember that God was giving them instructions of how the tabernacle is supposed to look and be built, and who's supposed to run it, and how it's supposed to run once you're inside of it. So God was telling the people, and He's telling us that wherever you are trying to worship me, it is supposed to be a set apart place. It's supposed to be special because I want you to think of nothing but my goodness. Whenever you come into my presence, you should feel me. You should experience me. You should be able to envelop with my love. That was the whole point of the tabernacle. That's what God should be at every church. When you go into church, whether it be the sounds, the sights, the music, the flares, the dances, whatever it is, it should all be glorifying God. That's what it's really about.
Man. Hey guys, guess what? It's time for the Whole Church podcast. You know what this music means? It means we're in our ecumenical aesthetic series still. And this one, honestly, guys, this is the one that I was like, we have a lot that are like playing really important roles. And this one does play an important role in the series. Don't worry. But this one really was, I was like, at least once we're going to cut loose and have as much fun with this like church icon gig as we can. I was like, let's bring on our good friends who do systematic ecology with us, who are also reverends of different church traditions. So we have the one and only, I could call you a reverend, I guess, Pastor Will Rose. Is reverend okay? It's like Lutherans anti-reverend?
I go by Reverend Rose.
The Honorable.
Pastor Will. I've never been called the Honorable. That's funny. I have been called
He had a halo before we started, and then he moved. He changed it up on you guys.
I've been called P-Dub for Pastor Will before.
You can also check him out. I know I mentioned systematic ecology. We're part of the AMP network. We have the homily now with Pastor Chill Will from Chapel Hill.
That's true.
You can hear some of his sermons on the network as well. Mm-hmm. Speaking of people who do sermons, you know him, you love him. The man himself, one of our favorite guests to just hang out with, the one and only Reverend Keno. How's it going, man?
How's it going, guys? It's been a while since I've been back on the Whole Church.
Yeah, man. It's good. It's always
been
fun.
A while. It's been a while. But it's always fun. It's always fun.
Man.
They changed the theme music just for you, Keno. They changed
it up. I was like,
I'm
ready to get my jazz on. Let's do this thing.
I was about to get the disco ball spinning.
I had to get some stuff, something a little more artistic,
Yeah.
Not just for the series, but also in honor of God's greatest masterpiece. When we say that God creates beauty, and we think of like artwork, we got to at least think not only the voice, but just the stamina, the awe-inspiring presence of the world's greatest co-host, the one and only TJ, Tiberius Juan Blackwell. How's it going?
Good. Thanks.
Never gets old. Never gets old. Never, ever, ever.
So, Yeah, if you like what we do here, if you want to check out the homily or any of the other shows on the Onazal Ministries podcast network, check us out. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you listen, and hang out in our Discord server. We feel like we're not getting enough interaction out of you guys. We'd like to get some more of that. So, not to beg or anything, but please.
Yeah. Well, and now, guys, I have a favorite spiritual practice that engenders unity without fail, and that's silliness. So we like to start our episodes off with a silly question. Today's a fun one because, man, I just knew we'd all have fun with this. Of all of your favorite Bible passages were turned into death metal songs, which would probably be the worst death metal song of your favorite passages specifically? TJ and I'll go first. TJ looks like he's thinking. So I'm gonna do mine, but at risk of this could turn out great.
Hang on.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I do have to interrupt because I have to let you. I don't know any death metal songs. I don't know.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
Your verse is being turned into one.
Yeah,
so you
I
just
know.
gotta.
But I don't know the tune.
He doesn't know what it sounds like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of verses that I could choose.
Yeah,
it depends. Yes. It depends on.
So here's my thought. My thought is I'm gonna go with. I don't remember what the verse is, but it's the how good and pleasant it is when brothers get along together in perfect harmony.
Okay.
But I have to put the asterisk of that could end up being a great song if it's done ironically.
Yeah.
I'm just unsure. TJ has got to be the best equipped of us to do this, which is why I did it, because I was like, none of us will be good, well equipped for this, so I thought it would be fun.
I just don't think it's a good question. I don't think there's.
Sorry.
I don't think there's a verse that you could turn into a song and the song itself be bad.
A death metal song?
Yeah, that's not. It's not relevant what the genre is. You can make the song good despite the verse.
What would be the most challenging to make good? I feel like Jesus Wept might be challenging because it's just not long enough.
No, it'd be so good.
Perfect death metal. That's a perfect death metal. Do you remember in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, they had just that one song that was two verses?
Yeah.
All right, so I got one. I really think this is the best one. I think you turn the entire book of Job into a death metal song, and you get a prize if you can listen to it all in one sitting. then you get like a magic prize.
I don't think that would be bad though. I think it would be good.
It would be bad because it'd be long. It'd be long. Yeah,
sitting there listening to people argue about God and pain and suffering. Death metal.
Isn't there like a trend in death metal songs to have like really long songs for some reason?
Maybe
a lot of them. Yeah,
I'm not in that. I'm not in that world. I'm not in that world yet.
I don't even know what it sounds like.
There are specific genres of metal and death metal subgenres
I know metal
focus on them being longer. Like you get drone metal, which each note is just held for sometimes minutes at a time.
TJ, just pick an answer. I'm ready to move on.
I say Job all the way through. You get a prize. The band will send you a prize or a medal or some kind of certificate if you can listen to it all in one sitting. That's my.
I'm gonna go with Psalms 38 5-8 again.
Okay. Also, I think the fall of Babylon in Revelation might be bad, but only because I think if they do the exact lyrics, it would probably get whatever band canceled. Yeah, I think they just would be banned from the radio because there's some language in that one.
Or the passage you just read, or the passage you just read here, like you read that. I used to make
that would not be a
great
metal song.
I used to make, if they got in trouble, it's like, all right, you're gonna read the Bible and read this boring passage. That's probably a horrible punishment to do for a kid. But anyway, that's
one of the genealogy. Keno, give us an answer so we can move on.
I have nothing. I don't know. I don't know.
What's your favorite
Keno's
Bible
answer is Matthew's 1.
There you go. Matthew's 1. Yeah, the whole genealogy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
I do now. I think Exodus 35 10 through 19 would be awful.
Yeah. Good. There you go.
Good. I'm glad we have found some agreements. Let's just all say that one.
Got it.
So
There you go.
One of the main reasons we're doing this series is because of our belief that beauty can bring people closer to God and to one another. So we have a few questions we're asking everyone in the series to go along with that belief. So, could you tell us of a time where you've seen God in the beauty of creation, outside specifically?
You want me to go? Yeah, I mean, you would think that, the beach bum surfer dude would always pick ocean and waves and sand dunes. And that's usually my go-to. But a few summers ago, I went to Iceland, and I can't stop thinking about Iceland. I want to go back. And it was because we went the time of year where the weather was really good. It was sometimes cloudy, sometimes rainy. It was cool. It was sunny. The coastline's great. But you'd be driving down the highway and you see a majestic waterfall and you think, that's the most incredible waterfall I've ever seen in my entire life. 10 minutes later, down the road, oh my gosh, that's the most majestic, beautiful waterfall I've ever seen in my entire life. 10 more minutes down the road, another one. So it's like the land of waterfalls and water and glaciers and volcanoes, and like the birth of Earth. It emerges out of this island. And so, it's a magical place. I could not help but feel that I was in a place of just awe and wonder, and really kind of the emergence of an ongoing creation happening in front of my eyes. So it was great.
Okay, that's
I like
good,
it.
Will. I like it. That's
What about you, Keno? Any beautifully angelic places, falling water?
Well, so like Will, it's truly, whenever you step outside, you should take notice of his creation. And I would say the better question is, have you paid attention to it? When the last time you paid attention to his creation? And that way you will say, hey, I'm now noticing what God is, because the God has created it all. And I'm not trying to be metaphorical or just give this blanket answer, but the truth is that in trying to understand God and how God moves, we forget that God has also made it the created world that we see. And he's also created an invisible world that we can't see. Like God created our inner molecular systems. So that even though we have some understanding of that, God still created all of that. And yeah, so like literally, and I'm not trying to be funny, but if you, to answer your question, I literally just watched this documentary about the James Webb Telescope, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome! This is so
Yeah.
awesome!"
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see that God can be seen and known in everything. And so I noticed him this morning. Funny enough, looking up at the morning sky when I'm taking my kids to school, and I saw Venus and Jupiter in the morning sky.
Oh wow.
So
That's
I'm
cool.
like that's cool. Like to wake up and like, hey, that's Venus
really
and that's
cool.
Jupiter over there. That's awesome. You know?
Wrong gods, but that's cool.
Well, we're not talking about the gods. I'm talking about the planets.
I know. I just can't help it.
Yeah.
You walk outside and Poseidon is on your porch.
On my porch,
Hey, this isn't my
smoking a
spare
cigarette.
life.
Yeah, I saw him this morning. Yeah,
making everything wet outside. I don't like that.
So we'll start with Keno this time. Could you share a moment with us, if you have one, that you've had a special connection with, like a painting or a sculpture or something like that? And it doesn't have to be like a religious one, just any kind of painting or sculpture that you felt a connection to.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I was like, I don't really have a painting or a sculpture, but I remember growing up, and I'm from Durham, so I lived across the street from, well, not across the street. To me, it was across the street, but it was 2 blocks from Duke University, and so every now and again, I would walk on their campus, and I would go to the botanical gardens and just go in there and just
Ooh.
all the different areas and everything. So I would go in there and just sit and just be in beauty and nature and just be like, oh gosh, this is so good, and talking to God and praying and all those things. So that's what it is for me, just going to the botanical gardens.
Man, that's a great transition too. Will's favorite basketball team, the Duke Blue Devils. Will, could you?
Blasphemy!
Shame on you, sir. Shame.
Tier 1.
Shame.
Tier 1 issue. I'm
Shame.
done. Tier 1. I'm getting off this right now.
Time out.
Shame.
No,
Crucify him. Crucify him.
Any painting or sculpture for you that isn't basketball related.
Well, I will say that Keno and I have the same fandom when it comes to college basketball, even though he grew up in Durham. So he's a Tar Heel fan.
Yes.
And I will
Yes.
say, even though I will never pull for
Oh,
Duke Blue Devils basketball,
I'm sorry.
their
No.
chapel and Botanical Gardens is gorgeous.
Their chapel
So
is
Yes.
if you
beautiful.
go to Duke Chapel and you go, they
Yeah.
got a beautiful campus. They have a great heart hospital. If I needed heart surgery, I would go there.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I have to pull for their basketball team. That's what I'm saying.
Nope.
But I will say, like, for me, like, even though you said not religious, I think, you know,
Oh,
I
it
grew
can
up
be
as a
religious.
Lutheran and somewhat, you know, we had pretty sanctuaries, but they weren't ornate. They were somewhat plain. You know, there was some stained glass, there was some stuff, pretty straightforward worship sanctuaries. But whenever I've gone into like a Greek Orthodox or Russian Orthodox cathedral with the iconography and the ornateness and the way the dome is structured, it draws your eyes upward and it tells a story. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I think for me, anytime you walk into that sanctuary, I'm just in awe. It takes my breath away. So yeah, that's what stands out for me. And I was able to go to Greece when I was in seminary to
Ooh, that's cool.
follow in the footsteps of St. Paul and see some of these
awesome.
cathedrals that were built where he went, and every single one, it just never got old. It was gorgeous.
Man, that's why I just love a good steeple, you know? Just make you look up. It's nice.
Yeah.
So there've been a lot of different studies out there that show that there is a healing aspect to just perceiving beauty, you know, in the world. Do you believe, I'll start with Will, do you believe there's a reason why God wired us this way, that there's a healing aspect to beauty?
Yeah, I think that's the deep down entanglement and relationship we have with creation itself. Like I, when it says we're creating the image of God, I don't necessarily think that God was created looking like me with two eyes and bald head and a male or whatever. That's not what it meant. It meant to be creating the image of God is to be in the image of love and to be able to create, to be a co-creator and to bestow beauty and enjoy. Just as God said, it is good. When we look at things, we can be like, man, that is good. We know beauty when we see it. So that creating the image of God, you know, mirrors what God was doing there from the very beginning when God was declaring creation good.
Yeah. How about you, Keno? You have anything to add to like why you think we were wired where like seeing beauty can have a healing power on the human body?
Well, it's not just seeing. It's actually the so seeing things can invoke a lot of things, but the sounds, just like music can, and hymns can, and just chants can as well. Like literally, certain chants will give you the same type of euphoric feeling that you would get at a Beyonce concert. I'm not trying to be funny, but that's literally what happens sometimes. Like seriously. And so like just going with what Will was saying, like if we recognize God as the creator of it all and we are his handiwork, now his, like Will was saying, like God is not a specific entity. No, God is this one who is infallible and is not can be understood, but it's through his creation that he speaks to us. And so when we, again, if we just see beauty, and beauty can be found in paintings, it can be found in statues, it can be found in nature, it can be found in conversations, it can be found in music, it can be found in anything if you're open to it. Well, here's the thing though, it could be manipulated too. Like, not trying to be funny, but going back to the Beyonce concert, like, you know, you got thousands and thousands of people going to Beyonce, but they ain't going to church. Just they'll dress up for Beyonce, but they won't dress up for church. I'm just saying, you know. So you got to weigh those things out, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction you bring up too. Is that when we talk about these things, that even like that whole like aesthetics things, and I don't know if we brought this up before. It's important that we do emphasize that it's not just stuff you perceive with your eyes. You know, there's a whole blind community out there, and some people born blind, and they still are able to perceive beauty just in a different way. And I think this conversation is still relevant for that community as well.
True.
Yeah.
No. Yep. So wait. Oh, please allow me to just throw that in there. Just allow me to do this, because I had this. We're teaching about about Jesus in Bible study. I'm sorry, we always teaching about Jesus in Bible study, obviously. But no, we're looking at a book. It's called "Who Is Jesus and Why He's Important" by Daniel Harrington, and we're looking at Jesus' teaching on the parables, and we're talking about how you can understand God's kingdom through the parables, right? And the author said that it's hard to understand God's kingdom because it's mysterious and it's invisible. Yes, I understand that. I agree with that. But however, I said that I disagree with this cannot be described. And you saying that about a blind person reminded me that when we're talking about understanding God's beauty and understanding like how the richness and fullness of who God is, uh, we have to remember that God's beauty just can't be seen. Again, it can be felt and taste and everything.
Ooh.
Like it could be all of those things. Yeah. So that's what I want to say.
Taste
Yeah.
and see that the Lord is good.
Amen.
It doesn't
Yeah.
say
Really
see
good.
that the Lord is good. It says taste
Yeah.
and see. The Lord's
Let's get some unleavened bread and wine out. Anybody?
do it.
Yeah, no thanks. So, before we get to the more unique aspects of this episode, there is one segment we've been doing in each episode for ecumenical exegetics, which is called the Artist Corner. I have a few questions. I'm going to read them in random order. We probably won't get to them all with you two because we only have 7 minutes. We're going to answer as many of these as we can, but in 7 minutes. So, there you. Y'all ready?
Ready.
Already.
Start the timer.
So, what kind of wall decor is around your church, and what is the significance of it? Will?
We have some paintings, not necessarily, how do you describe them? They're not necessarily abstract, but they're symbols. They're paintings around the room from a member of our church who is a local artist, professional artist. And these paintings symbolize the sacraments and like the seasons of the church year. So we don't have stained glass there in our worship space. Our old sanctuary does. That's now a reception hall, but we have these kind of paintings around the wall that point to sacramental theology and the seasons of the church here.
They are beautiful pieces too. How would you describe those colors? Because the colors are really what stood out to me when I visited.
Yeah, it's bright. It's like the season of church here. You got blue, greens, reds, kind of drawing you into kind of earthy tones. So yeah, it's kind of spread out like the seasons of the church here have its own distinct color. Yep.
I really like it.
Josh, please don't steal our guest's 7 minutes.
Listen, it's our 7-minute
Keno,
conversation.
What kind of wall decor is around your church, and what is the significance of it?
So around our church, we don't have any stained glass windows. So we have pictures of family praying together. We have the Last Supper. We have something about our denomination. So the Amy Zion Church. Might be a poster or flyer about our bishops or something about the Connectional Church. Then we have something about Black excellence. Then there's some Bible scriptures, and then some famous quotes. Then there's church announcements. So all of this not just around the sanctuary itself or inside the sanctuary, it's also inside the fellowship hall, inside the church, and those things. So there's a lot of things that we have hanging up around the church.
So, Keno, do you prefer hymns or modern worship music?
Both. I like both. I like both. I listen, a good hymn. Listen, a good hymn sung good. Yeah, it'll get you. It get anybody going. I don't care. Yeah, get anybody going. But gospel music, worship music is also good too. So I like both.
All right. What about you, Will?
Mostly hymns from a hymnal, but we have a few contemporary songs sprinkled throughout as offertories are sung by the choir. And by contemporary worship songs, we mean those written in like the 1800s, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, just wondering.
Yeah. So, how do you use music or other art in your worship services, Will?
Mostly is a liturgical service that uses like the ancient Kyrie and hymns of praises from way back when, from the early masses, from the early church worship style and flow, and then hymns and word and sacrament. We we have often used skits or someone painting in church on a kind of a high festival Sunday, or a guest preacher or artist that will come in, but that's kind of rare. So, but mostly we're in the liturgical flow of the liturgical seasons and kind of what's wrapped around the seasons of the church year.
All right. What about y'all, Keno? How do y'all use music in worship?
So we do hymns, we have chants, we do some anthems, and then we do gospel songs and praise and worship. That's typical, but it depends on which church. But in my church, that's what we use. We use all that.
I'm allowed follow-ups in this section. Chants. What kind of chants do y'all do?
We do the threefold amens. We do all things come of thee, the doxologies. I can't think of any other ones.
That's cool.
All of those in the hymnal.
That's cool though.
Those are the ones I can think of on top of my head. But we have a hymnal and all of our chants, and we got spirituals. We got there's a whole bunch of stuff in our hymnal. I realize.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's kind of the ancient Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. There's like a pattern, liturgical pattern where people will chant back and forth, the congregation. This stems back way back before they had amplification or microphones as a way to articulate and kind of carry that tune throughout the whole long sanctuary or cathedral so that people could hear better acoustically. So there's a reason. Sometimes way back when they even chanted the entire gospel reading. They didn't just read it, they chanted it because that was a way that people would be able to hear it in a new kind of different way, amplification. So,
when you saying that reminded me that in some black churches, listen, we're gonna keep talking. That some, even though the slaves could not read, there might be one individual who could read, and so they would line the hymn. And what that means is that one person would read the line, and then the choir would repeat after them in a type of meter.
That's kind of cool.
Okay.
3 to 4 or 3/4 or 1/4 meter. So if you've never seen a hymn choir, I would advise you to go and Google and look up on YouTube just a hymn choir, and they'll line out old hymns, but they'll sing them in a certain way that you've never heard it before. But ooh, boy, when they get that foot, get the stuff in, and this is soul wrenching, soul crying, and soul filling songs right there.
Love it.
All right. So, do either of y'all's churches have statues that we could discuss?
No. None.
No.
Yeah, not a lot of statue churches here.
No. I mean, I've been to Catholic churches where they have the Stations of the Cross that has either been paintings or miniature sculptures around the church, but the Lutheran Church does not have statues. We're not against it; we just don't have it.
Yeah, same here. We're against it. I don't know why they're against it, but I do know why, because they don't understand. But it's just silly. But we don't have any statues around our church either.
All right. So, what is the most unique piece of art that you have ever seen or heard? Keno.
I saw King Tut's sarcophagus. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, took me to the New Orleans Art Museum because they had the King Tut exhibit, and I saw his sarcophagus. So I was like, "Wow, that was awesome!" Yeah,
I've always wanted to go to that art exhibit.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
that was cool.
Yeah, that's super, to see art that was made, 3,000 years ago.
Yeah,
that's sick.
Yeah.
BC, before Christ. I don't know if it's the most unique. For me, I remember a few years ago taking my family up to New York, and we went to the American Museum of Natural History. And so a lot of it is science-based and evolution-based, and we're in there enjoying this museum. And there, amongst it is like a quote from Francis Collins, who's also a Christian, but also a man of science, who was the head of the Genome Project. And he had a quote about like faith and science working together here in the midst of like this museum of evolution and the history of the world. And I was taken back by that. I was like, oh, that's so cool that they allowed that to happen. Of course, I Googled that phrase, and Francis Collins, the controversy around it, both scientists and people of faith were like, why is this together? And why are they working together? But for me, it just kind of sums up kind of where I am in my faith and belief in science, and seeing them go hand in hand together in a museum to lift up the wonder of the world was very moving and surprising for me, and glad it's there.
Yeah. I feel like, Will, you get to have a fairly unique perspective because you get to see the most unique painting because we all know God paints with waves. So it's different every
ever
time.
moving, ever flowing, never the same. There's patterns, but every wave is different. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
All right. I do think that's the full 7-minute allotment.
That's a little more than 7.
Yeah, it was a little more than, but
7-ish.
we got more of the
7-ish.
questions than I thought we would. So
yeah,
good for us.
You know, the thing is, though, I feel like I'm glad that they didn't do this, but I feel like sometimes people treat it like it's like a speed round. But I'm like, I feel like it'd be really interesting if someone took that as a challenge, just been 7 whole minutes on one question. Like, okay, yeah, I got this.
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
So if any future guests are listening, speaking of which, TJ wouldn't let me take any more of y'all's time up, but I wanted to mention when you were talking about like how the chants used to be done, a lot of the Orthodox Church still does that. So Christian Ashley, another guest of this show, does a few other shows, Systematic Ecology, Let Nothing Move You. But me and him both visited Father Jonathan's church, who's going to be on this series in a couple weeks. And they chant most of their service still. And it's pretty cool. So if you get a chance to visit a Orthodox church, it's cool. Yeah.
Was it moving? Was it a moving experience?
I found it moving.
Yeah.
I don't think Christian did. No, Christian, we love you.
We love you. We love you, Christian.
We love you, Christian.
We do want this week to focus on some Christian iconography. Why can't I speak today? Iconography. Could y'all explain what is iconography, and is it the same as comic books, and how is it different from idol worship? So you got 2 comparisons to make.
I don't mind starting a little bit and then build off that. Like, some of the earliest kind of literacy that humans did was just writing, drawing paintings on the side of caves to document their history and what they were doing, what they were up to, whether it was art or whether it was an articulation of the hunt and the thrill and the human condition and experience. So that kind of goes back. It wasn't that they were articulating the alphabet as much as they were drawing paintings of what was happening in their lives, the human experience on cave walls. And that's emerged. And so art and paintings have always been a part of humans and the way they express themselves and articulate what it means to be human in the world, at least from my humble point of view. And then so iconography is the early church, even though the scripture does say, beware of idols and images and don't let it get in the way of how you express and worship God, but it is a way to point to accent and facilitate and draw your mind and heart to the story and love and grace of God. So in Greek, icon, EIKON, is a Greek word that means image, and then graphe, GRAPHE, is writing. So is image writing. So iconography is an image that tells a story. And so in a sense, it is a graphic novel. It is a painting or a picture that is an image that is used to tell a story of what's going on. So the early church would do these icons of events in Christ's life, knowing, as we talked about in terms of literacy, only the 1% or the top, there were only a few people who were literate or who could read and write. So they would use these images to articulate and share the story of Jesus himself. So they to build upon this kind of biblical literacy on these stories of Jesus, they would do these icons or iconography to adorn the worship space so that people were entering into the life of Jesus literally and pointing to what this story is. And so,
real quick for those listening who aren't in comic book world at all, because I know there are some of you who have zero context. Graphic novel, when he said that, He basically just meant comic books. So
Right,
yeah.
right. We don't mean as
Yeah.
graphic as a sense of like scandalous or like rated R X, but like
Yeah.
there's graphic, but like graphic like images,
Yeah.
words with pictures that tell the story and action along the way. Which, you know, recommendation: go get yourself the Action Bible, which is a graphic
Yes.
novel, the Bible
Yes.
itself. You gotta
Listen, I gotta see the word for word Bible comics.
Mhm.
They're pretty good. I think I like the art for those better.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Way
That's just me.
better. Way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
Way
what
better.
I leave out, Keno? What's in there?
No,
That
no. You. I think you touched it on. You hit every good point. I think there's a confusion in Protestantism in of it as a whole, because we were like, you know what, we rejecting all of it, just like, you know, we if that's Catholic is bad. No.
right? Mhm.
I'm like, no, it's not bad. We were all Catholic at one point in time. We was all one church, okay? So we all worship the same way. And
That's
we
sort of our
still,
whole goal here.
yeah, and funny enough, we still do. Like, there are different styles, but the whole point of our worship service is to retell the story of Christ and to have communion, to either take the Eucharist or communion. Like, that's what we all do. We all do, and we baptize. Okay, we all do those two things. Okay, the other ones we disagree on if they're not sacraments or not. We don't care about that. We talking about the two things we do that we agree upon. And funny enough, we miss that the icons, like Will said, are just there to help us to remember about God. But the idols, they were made by us because we thought we were God. Because this the Bible says in forgive me, what the Bible says in Psalms 106 verse 20, they traded they traded their glorious God for statues of grass eating bulls. That's an idol. That's
Yeah.
an idol. Yeah. No, you don't need to do that. What God was saying was, stop putting your faith in the stuff that you think that you did, and put your faith in the one who created it all. Like,
Right.
don't think that because your idol can only eat grass. That's all. you're worshiping grass eating idol or deity. How messed up is that? And yet, but it's just saying, like,
Yeah.
but icons, funny enough, in the truest sense, help us to remember and to give us our attention to be drawn to God through the image.
Yeah, and to pull that understanding a little bit further, the image alone, like, yeah, I have pictures of my family around the house, and I have a picture of my dog that just passed away this past summer. So that picture reminds me of the story and how important these people are in my lives. But I would never, hopefully not, confuse the picture for the actual person. Like, if Hannah walked in the room and I'd be like, no, get away, that. Hannah. I really love this picture more than you. They'd be like, what are you doing? What's the matter with you? But no, it reminds me and points to stages in their life and how much their family's important to me. So these icons, point to the reality of how important God is to us. And I can understand why the Protestantism, there needed to be a change and a shift to Reformation, because some of these icons or relics became a means by which to manipulate the people and oppress them as a, to commodify God's love and grace. And so that's what needed to be reformed, and kind of this money-making manipulation that these things were doing to manipulate people or to force them. They're like, no, let's get back to the basic. That's why Luther and others were like, let's get back to, we're not against icons or images, but let's see what they do, or the cult around it, or the intention behind it. Let's get back to what they're really meaning and pointing to, and that is the love of God itself, and drawing us closer to God, not get in the way of God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I really like that analogy. Yeah.
Will, you've mentioned a few times before that one of your favorite paintings is the image of Christ in the harrowing to hell, reaching out to Adam and Eve. What could you tell us about this piece, and why do you enjoy it so much?
Yeah, I think Easter's my favorite holiday. I love Christmas. I love all the holidays. They all have their place. I even like Thanksgiving, I guess, Joshua.
The best holiday.
But Easter is why we're here, and why we're even having a podcast talking about this anyway. It's because Christ
and I'm thankful for that.
And I am too. It's a part of it. It's definitely not the main part. It's not the one piece. It is it is part of it. So this icon I've used before in confirmation camp and camp to help give an image to our kids about what's really happening at Easter. And so there's this image. It's the icon of the I might be saying this wrong, anastasis, which in Greek means rising up. And so it's the Christ descent into Hades, or the harrowing of hell. And so on that Holy Saturday after Good Friday, Christ literally goes to hell or Hades, to the land of the dead, and grabs humanity by the hands and pulls them out of the grave. So in this image, and it's done in different ways, it goes back to like the 7th century, and then there's been lots of versions since then of what this looks like. But it's basically Christ being raised up, and he's grabbing, on one hand he has a man, on the other hand he has a woman, to represent Adam and Eve, representing all of humanity, pulling out of the grave all of humanity to new life. And so that is an image that I wanted to like burn into my flock's brains and hearts, to say like, this is what Easter means. Christ is not abandoning you. God's love is stronger than death and is pulling you out of the grave to new life. And so yeah, it's around Easter time, but I think it's, a year round thing to be thankful for.
Yeah, for sure. The next question really is just an excuse for me to talk about my favorite church icon. So the Celtic church has the Celtic Trinity knot. Yeah. I love this image because for me, this explains why I think iconography can be so powerful. I have always had the hardest time conceptualizing the idea of the Trinity. Like, how can there be 3 in 1? And people do that whole water thing. And I'm like, that's a terrible analogy. Water can't be ice, steam, and liquid at the same time. It's either one of the 3,
Wrong.
So
that's
that
called
always
a
confused me.
superposition.
So it just always confused me. But you see this image and I'm like, okay, yeah, there's 3 things here. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, wait, no, that's one continuous motion. But you see 3, but it is also one thing. And then you have that circle going through to represent the complete unity of the Trinity. And for some reason, thinking of the Trinity through that image has made a lot more sense to me, even though that's obviously not what God looks like or anything. It just helped me come to terms with the Trinity a little bit better than I think really any explanation ever has. So I was just going to ask you guys, did you have any icons that kind of depict the Trinity that you have found helpful, or that you just appreciate, that you find moving, or anything like that? Let's let Keno go first, since the last question was basically just to Will.
That's fine. So I can't remember what it's called, because I was like, gosh, I can't remember, but I think it's called the Shield of Trinity, where you have the Father, the Son, and then the Holy Spirit, and God in the middle. And then there's lines that says the Father is not the Son is not the Holy Spirit is not the Father. And then going into the center, you have the Father is God, the Son is God, the Holy Spirit is God. Which just says that, yes, the Father is not the Son, but the Father is God. So is the Son is God. So that to me helped me understand the Trinity. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it right there. That's it.
I was Googling it. I was like, okay, yeah. It's like, it's the shield of the Trinity. So I was like, yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, that helped me. That helped me.
Yeah. I like that. I think I remember being in seminary, and again, like the water image, they really guarded us against like modalism, different modes of way of God of operating as it falls short from the mystery of the Trinity. And it's such a mystery that it's hard to wrap your head around it. And again, like me, like Will Rose is a son. I am also a father. I'm also a husband and a pastor. Those are functions I am, but I'm still me. And when do I take one hat off from the other? I'm still the same person. So within myself, I have characteristics. So it's hard. Like I think one of the oldest, there's a Russian icon by Andrei Rublev called The Hospitality of Abraham. It's a 15th century icon of three angels sitting around a table, and it kind of points to kind of again, Abraham welcoming three angels to his household and his table. But then Christians use that to point to the hospitality of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, setting a meal for us. And so that's one. These three angelic beings sitting around a table with a cup in the middle is another icon of the Trinity that I would love to have in our church at some point. We have some vacant wall space. I would love for someone to come in and draw or write one of those, or get a huge icon of the Holy Trinity and put it up on a wall, since we are Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. And so we have another painting. One of the wall paintings in our church is like a tree. And in the midst of that tree, there's three interlocking circles to represent the Trinity, but also growth and green, and a season of Pentecost, and this kind of growth in God. So yeah, there's a lot of different images that help kind of wrap our head around the nature of God, and I think it's good. They all aren't perfect, but then again, it's just us trying to articulate again how we understand and see God.
Yeah. Two more real quick. Obviously, the Trinity symbol in Kingdom Hearts is pretty much perfect. That's an inside joke for systematic ecology followers. But I was also going to just kind of plug, when this comes out, the most recent episode of Dummy for Theology, the other podcast I do, is all about the Trinity. So check it out.
Yeah.
I'd like to shout out the Treyarch logo really quickly. Shout out Black Ops 1. It's just like a Celtic knot without the circle.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Circle's important, though.
It is.
Yeah, well, it's there somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
So one of the most interesting changes made in church imagery was one made during the Protestant Reformation. Big surprise. John Calvin objected to the use of the crucifix with Jesus on the cross because Jesus is no longer dead. Calvin introduced the plain cross instead, and that's, I feel like, more familiar with most people now in this country. Meanwhile, Martin Luther did not share in this objection, which is why many Lutheran churches in Europe still use the crucifix. So we were curious about both of your thoughts on the legitimacy of the crucifix versus the plain cross.
And I think Lutheran churches in America do use the plain cross, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I know in Europe they use the crucifix.
Yeah. So what's up with that, Will?
Yeah, I think leaned itself into it. Like the Protestant church, and part of its Reformation didn't want to look Catholic, and fought against that, and swung that pendulum way too far on the other side, and say we're just going to keep it on that side. So and again, it was this kind of correction or overcorrection or reformation to not look like what's done in the past, but also not get into the trappings of imagery, idolatry, manipulation. And when you see like a person or a painting of someone literally being crucified, it gets you to your soul. So it is jarring. It's disturbing, as in it should be. So there's this, if you wanted to avoid that trauma and just say, well, we're a church of Easter and the resurrection, and Christ is no longer dead, and we're new creatures and a new creation. I get that. But I do think come Lent, come Good Friday, other aspects of our devotion and meditation, reflection on the meaning of faith, then you can't have Easter without Good Friday. So you can't have a plain cross without Christ crucified on it. And to see that grotesque, horrific image is important to our faith, to understand what Christ went through. So I think it's a both and. For me, it's a both and. Lutheran churches, Luther, he wasn't against the crucifix, but he definitely was like, hey, he had his own religious trauma and avoided crucifixes and things too. I mean, he did his thing. So it's like Lutherans aren't totally like, yeah, we're cool. But like, it might be a European American thing. But yeah, I think for us, it's a both and. Most Lutheran churches in the United States have plain crosses. I go to my Catholic neighbors down the road, and you go in their sanctuary, and Jesus is fully on it. So, I think it needs to be a both and. But I think part of that is the history of the Reformation and what we're trying to get away from and then grow into. So
I think I agree with you, Will. Gosh, I nothing really can say. But I will add that it's interesting that even though we've swung away from the icons, especially the crucifix, but you'll see a lot of folks outside of the church wearing crucifixes. Yeah, I've seen as jewelry, you know. or they've gotten tattoos of Christ with the halo, or Christ with the crown of thorns. You know, so I agree with Will. It should be a both. But I think that we missed that it really does make a difference. But this is what I was going to say is that what you end up seeing, though, a lot of Protestant churches, independent churches, is that they're going back to some type of um, icons or pomp and circumstances in how they are dressing for service. Like literally, they got they you think that do you think they're Catholic bishops? The stuff they be wearing, like they got the whole mirror and all the other stuff. Like I thought we was Protestants. I don't think we, but this is what you got: apostles and bishops and all this other crazy. I'm like, this is just silliness. But that thing that we got away from, they're actually still doing. Like literally, that's funny enough that it. So I agree with Will. It's a both, and both of them are our heritage, and it's good to have the reminder. Yes, it's traumatic to think of it that way, but we need to be reminded because we easily forget. We easily forget. So I think that yeah, you, like Will said, you go to a Catholic church and you it's right there in your face, but but you are reminded when the change of the season, because when we're in Lent, we're supposed to be thinking about it anyway. So, but icons can't help. Icons can't help.
I'm curious to hear TJ's perspective on this one too, actually. But I'm gonna give him time to think about it, because my thought process, I like seeing the empty cross on the steeple, and I like when we present to people an empty cross because we want to present hope to the world. Our Christ is one who has risen. But I think in the church, within the walls, and we're like reflecting on ourselves, I like seeing the crucifix. I like thinking of what sin, what do we need to repent of? Like I want us to feel that burden, but maybe what we should be showing the world is that hope also. So I like the both and answers that you gave. To me,
I mean,
yeah.
Lutherans, Luther had a theology of the cross that he leaned into pretty hard, literally call it theology of the cross. And it is that, this surprising, unexpected way that God expresses love is through suffering, through humiliation, not kind of top down power, control, manipulation, but rather from the bottom up or from the margins. That this theology from the cross is really what Lutherans lean into, that is counterintuitive and countercultural in terms of how the world operates. And so Luther's about that as well.
Yeah. And Johnny Cash proven that that symbol of the crown of thorns is probably one of the most powerful. I mean, his cover of Hurt is definitely the best cover I think I've heard of anything. It's so good.
Yeah. So I think I definitely see the validity of wanting to have the plain cross over the crucifix in some cases. It's a fairly graphic image for young children to see. People who might be squeamish like that.
True.
It's he's getting crucified. It's pretty. It's up there. It's graphic. It's I think the empty cross is just as significant as the cross with Jesus on it, because he's no longer on it. He is not dead. But I do think it's nice to have both, because they are different. They really symbolize different things at the end of the day, to me at least. And I think the Protestant church has done such a good job of like hiding the crucifix away from people. Like I don't think I saw a crucifix in real life until I was in like high school.
Yeah, no, it depends on where you live. Because funny enough, if you live in Texas or somewhere in the Southwest, or where Catholicism is, even in Boston, Catholicism is really prominent up north, you will see crucifixes in Walmart. They sell them in Walmart.
That is weird.
They sell rosaries in Walmart.
Yeah.
So I get it, but you're absolutely right though. We do protect we do isolate ourselves from understanding how bigger the world is. Like literally, we just be like, this is it. No,
let's just all meet in the middle, and we'll have a plain cross, but leave the bloodstains.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I do like that actually. I do
like
that.
The nails with the bloodstains. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
The cross with just the nails in it. But
that probably would look cool.
I feel like the first time I ever saw a crucifix was on like Legion, the movie, or something. Like that was just nowhere in my life.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. I grew up in South Carolina.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. So, Keno, are there any other images or icons used in your particular tradition that you would like to bring up?
Yes. So even though we don't have any icons, that we do use the Kemet in ancient Egypt image of the ankh. We do use that in our. We do wear the ankh.
What's that look like?
So you know what, I thought you was gonna ask, but that's kind of what it looks like. But it's just a little
I see it.
oval. Yeah.
That does look cool. I knew what
Yeah.
that was. I've seen that. I always
Yes.
forget the name for some
Yeah,
reason.
no, it's called an ankh. It's an ankh, and it's just a symbol of life. And so we will wear that as well. And I've a lot of black preachers will. It's not even Methodists. I've seen a lot of more black preachers start wearing it, as well. But it comes from the Egyptian Coptic Church, so it ain't. It's a Christian symbol. It used to be Egyptian, but the Egyptian Coptic Church said, "No, this is us. This is ours. This is about life." So
Interesting.
yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool. Will, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty sacramental based. So any image around like baptism and water and like a shell, water pouring out, and then like a cup and bread together, symbolizing like the Eucharist and communion. I think those images are around a lot. Like, there's definitely times of the year when we change the paraments or the altar decorations and what drapes the pulpit for the season of the church year, the color. So when we get into Advent, it come November or December, it'll be blue. That kind of a dark Duke blue for some reason. I don't know
Yeah, I do
why.
blue.
But then,
we do purple. We do purple.
but then and then Lent for us, so Lent is purple, and then so that's the stuff that shifts, so people will know visually, oh, we're in a different season, different tone, different pace, to help them not only hear the hymns and the word being preached, but also visually know what season we're in, to use all the senses that of the whole being.
If you thought it was surprising TJ didn't see Crucifix for so long, I didn't know there was such thing as church seasons until 2 years into like attending a Christian college. Like we had learned about Bible, so 2 years before anyone even brought up there's such thing exists as a church season.
Teaching tool.
And then I found out that they do robes around the season. I was like, man, I thought they just picked which one they thought looked coolest that day.
Right. Well, and that's the irony too, is that we wear robes to cover our clothes, so we're not distracting from what's going on in worship. But sometimes our robes and stole and paraments will, try to outdo the next season. To like, wait a minute, we're kind of doing the thing that we weren't supposed to do by trying to outdo one another in terms of ornate clothing. But
fun fact: that's why our verse at the beginning is so long. I just wanted it to go long enough to talk about the garments, so I could bring up robes at some point.
Part of it.
Yeah.
I have a
hasn't
cassock.
backfired.
I have an Anglican cassock. That's a black Anglican cassock. That's it.
That's cool.
It's heavy though. God, that thing is heavy. It's only held by 5 buttons, which is amazing to me.
What?
Yeah, it's 5 buttons.
In the summertime,
it's got to be one good material. So that thing's heavy.
It's I think the word is garbardine. I think that's what it is. I think that's the material. It's heavy. Like if I see why people be slain in the spirit, you throw that down, you're gonna really be falling out. You're gonna get slapped right in the face, you're gonna fall. I'm just
keep your water bottle. Keep your water. Stay hydrated, Keno. Stay hydrated.
That's funny.
So do y'all have a favorite church icon that is from a tradition that isn't your own?
Yeah, I'll just kind of circle back around to the harrowing of hell and Christ grabbing Adam and Eve and pulling humanity out of the grave is something I'm always drawn to.
No, I don't have anything. Not really.
Yep.
Not really attracted to icons for real.
Yeah, I mean, I've always really liked the ankh personally, because that's not from my tradition. We're Pentecostal,
right?
We don't even do the crucifix.
Can y'all see?
Does the
Celtic Trinity knot?
Does the Trinity knot count? Because I've always seen the Trinity knot too. It's like,
I mean, it's not Pentecostal. I think it's like Celtic Catholic, right?
Yeah, I think
Irish Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think technically it was Pictish before it was Celtic. That makes it pagan.
It's fine. It's about the Trinity now. So,
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I forgot you had to do something else first.
Yeah. So check out Systematic Ecology on Captivate. Rate us. Be as scathing as possible. It really helps us out. All 4 of us here love to hear your just most deteriorating, virulent hate comments that you can muster.
Which we're bringing up because all 4 of us are on that show as well.
Yeah. You can listen to all 4 of us on Systematic Geekology, sometimes on the same episode. So if
Usually
you like
not.
this, check us out.
Yeah. Usually not, but sometimes, I think me, you, and Will are supposed to talk about the Dawn of Jedi sometime soon. Anyway, outside of paintings and statues, what is one kind of art you think people could get into that might help us draw closer to God and each other? Keno.
Funny enough, I'm gonna say this to the audience because I think most of our audience is probably from a Protestant background, more deep South, and anyway, go to a Catholic or Greek or even an Anglican or Episcopalian church and go inside and sit down and just take in all that you see and just relish in that type of environment, because we get used to being in our church, but sometimes going into a different church setting can also awaken something that's been dead or been asleep inside of us, that truly it could be. So I would say go and literally look at the crucifix inside of that sanctuary, just to give you an idea of thinking back of what he did, even though you might know, but just to see it brings it back more alive and make it more vivid for you. So
go to the Duke Chapel.
Do
or if you are Catholic or Orthodox, go to a really plain steeple with wooden pew church, like Old Baptist church. That's a good place to sit too.
Go to the First Baptist church.
Yeah.
This whatever says First Baptist, just go there. Just go there.
There's something spiritual about that simplicity, though. I really like. Oh, man, it's good too. Both are good.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
Will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to build off that too. Is like I think you're right. Go find a cathedral, a downtown church. Most of the time, they're open. They leave them open for people to come in to have sanctuary and to go and sit. And as we talked about, iconography is an image that tells a story. And so look around the room. What story is being told through the images around you, and read it, reflect on it. Let that draw the senses to your own prayers and the longings of your heart, and let that move you. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
I actually would like to say, I think, and this, I just didn't think about it until Keno mentioned it earlier, but I think gardening is art. And I think gardening is something that can bring people together, especially if you're, starting at the same time or planting in the same garden. If you're lucky enough to be somewhere that has a community garden, definitely get involved. And if you're lucky enough to be somewhere that doesn't have a community garden but does have town hall meetings, go to those town hall meetings and start proposing that you start a community garden.
Community garden, yes.
That's what I did. And now Inman has a community garden.
Wonderful.
So,
that's
good. I'm going to add one too then. Look for recycled art places. Just the sculptures made of like recycled like bottles or cans and like all that other kind of stuff. Like something about that does always speak to me, because it's like life coming out of, not from death, but from trash, which sometimes, I feel like trash. So I don't know. I connect with that.
So what would the repercussions in the world around us be if everyone stopped to take the time to go to a beautiful Orthodox or Catholic or Presbyterian or Anglican or Episcopalian church, or start gardening, or go to an upcycle art center? I think we'd all get closer.
Yeah, I think we help Joshua see that himself. He's an upcycle. He's not trash. He's upcycled.
Quick aside, Disney moment. There's a Toy Story. Was it Toy Story 4? That they have a song that is I think it sounds like a gospel song, but it's the I won't let you throw yourself away. It's because the spork in the show thinks he's trash, so he keeps trying to throw himself away.
I won't let you.
That song
I
also
won't
speaks
let
to
you
me in
throw
a
yourself
weird way.
He's so
away.
good.
I won't
Sorry, I'm
let you.
done now.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Come on, TJ, hit it.
So, before we wrap up, we like to ask everyone to share a moment where they saw God recently, whether that be a blessing, challenge, mode of worship, curse. I always make Joshua go first to give us and our poor, inexperienced, selves to as much time as we need to think. So, Josh, do you have a God moment for us this week?
Yeah, I'm going to continue the trend of just us sponsoring Chipotle for some reason. So those who listen regularly know I switched back over to Chipotle, starting a job there. We're opening a new store. We're finally in the store. It's not opened yet. So this week, just working along the people that I'm going to be working with in management, and so this is like it's a 2-part God moment because it's both a blessing and a challenge. TJ, I'm doing both. They have just to be blessed with this group of people I'm working with who have such a great sense of humor, all passionate about the project, and I just have this community with them, and I love that group, and that's just such a blessing. And then I was challenged because we've also been working with the guy who built the building. Shout out to Billy if you're listening. He's one of the coolest guys ever. And the reason I say he was a challenge for me is because, man, he asked for a Chipotle hat and a Chipotle shirt like the workers have because he's just so proud of this building he worked on. And he's just so like excited for what he built and to see what it becomes. And I'm like, man, I need to be as proud of my work as that guy is. Like I've not seen that in somebody in so long. And I'm like, that is such a challenge. So I need to be more like Billy. And, I have a great group of people to do it with. So I'm blessed.
No, I did that before I started working at Chipotle. I was like, "Hey, Josh, can I have one of your spare hats and shirts?"
That's how you started working at Chipotle. What do you
Yeah, that's a
Hat
different
first.
story. I was
Now we gotta
definitely
hire
in a
Billy.
store in uniform before I ever worked at a Chipotle.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so
Oh my goodness.
I'll go with my God moment next. If you live in like Western North Carolina, you probably know the Mountain State Fair is still going on. Might have just ended. But it's like a super long fair. I think it lasts for like 2 weeks because it's like a real fair. Like you go and agriculture competitions and dirt competitions and that kind of thing. A real country fair. But I was, lucky enough to get the time to go to the Mountain State Fair with my family and spend the day there, which is always so nice that everyone can take a break from their busy schedule to go just enjoy themselves for a day together as a family for the first time in so long. And it's all God, That wouldn't be possible without God. No, it would exist without God.
Mm-mm.
So, all right, who's going first? What about you, Keno? Do you have a God moment for us?
Yes, I do. So my God moment is I was blessed to participate in an installation service of one of my good friends. He was installed as the new pastor of St. Philip's Missionary Baptist Church in Huntersville, North Carolina, and they had the
Oh, nice.
service at First Baptist of Huntersville. Um, and that was a wonderful experience. They opened the church up to us. It was really lovely, really nice. So that was always impactful to be a part of those type of services, or ordination or installation services. I don't know if you all be a part of those type of things, but it's always an honor and a blessing just to be a part of that sharing. Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we do ordination services.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do ordination, but then installation as well. In fact, someone who graduated from our campus ministry who became a Lutheran pastor was just called to a church in Raleigh, right down the road from us, and so was able to go to his installation. So that was good.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
not James, is it?
No, James is
Okay.
James in Salisbury. We'll
Yeah,
get him
he was
closer.
from your group too, though, right?
Yeah, went to divinity school and then member of our church, and then eventually came.
Yeah, go
Lutheran
Blue
and-
Devils.
Yeah. He would say that. I would not. We get along. I'll share my God moment, and it's not the Duke Blue Devils, but I will say that, like, I no secret that I love the ocean and grew up surfing, and this last string of hurricanes that have missed the coast and done exactly what surfers want it to do. Thankful that they split the uprights between the Outer Banks and Bermuda and just go right through, and brought a lot of waves. So I've been able to get some surfing in, and there's been it's very crowded. Waves get good. Surfers are there, hundreds of people in the water, and sometimes can get territorial. But I feel like the places where I surfed and the people that were out there, maybe I'm just older and don't care as much, but like I feel like there was wave sharing and there was way of encouraging one another and be like, hey man, great wave. Yeah, you go, I'll go on the next one. So there's that kind of which you don't always get because East Coast waves are limited. But it was nice to finally catch some good waves after a long flat summer, but then also a good kind of unity out in the water among surfers that aren't always nice, but we were nice this go around.
Praise God.
Yeah.
If you liked what we did here, please consider sharing with a friend, share with an enemy, your cousins. We love cousins. Share with your enemies, friends. If you don't have any of those, share it with me. I'll listen to it and tell you what I think. And you can get merch. Yeah, I will if they want.
Okay, sure. You don't listen to this, though.
No one ever asks me to listen.
That's fair, I guess. I've never shared it with TJ, or I think either any of my cousins. I'm terrible. Hopefully our listeners better than me.
Yeah, so you can actually support us through merch. You can buy merch. There's a link in the show notes. It's pretty cool stuff. It actually looks pretty good. I do dare say so myself. All designed in-house in our personal art studio, Josh's laptop.
Yeah, he is not joking. Speaking of things produced on my laptop, most of the AMP network really is. But you should go over to the Enzel Ministries Podcast Network. You can hear the homily with Will Rose. You can hear Dummy for Theology with me. You can go hear Christian Ashley, Let Nothing Move You, Brandon Knight's My Seminary Life. The Clydes do their own couples. Not really like a diary, more like a spiritual journey thing that they invite you guys to join in with them. All good stuff. TJ's going to be talking about hockey soon. I think we're about to get a football show on there. We have Systematic Geekology with all of us there talking about geek stuff. It's a great time. So check out the network, all those shows. You'll have fun, I promise.
Yeah, and we hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week when we'll be continuing our Ecumenical Aesthetics series with Brother J.R. Martin, Dr. Peter Link, and Dr. Peter Beck. They'll be on with us to discuss how imagery is used in the Bible and the symbolism in some of our church flags. After that, Pastor Shana Watson of the Anglican tradition will join us to talk about some uniquely Anglican imagery. And then Father Jonathan Resmini will be joining us to discuss how art is used in the Eastern Orthodox Christian tradition. And finally, at the end of season 1, Francis Chan will be joining us.
Yeah.
As a host.
He is unaware.
Yeah.
So someone let him know that he has a podcast in waiting to take over.
And in season 12 of the homily, I'm going to do the entire book of Job and death metal music, screamo music. So be prepared for that in season 12.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Featuring vocals from Francis Chan. All right. See you guys next time.